Hey guys, it's Alex with Hammond Watch, here today with the SBSA041, which is one of my favorite recent releases from SEIKO. A big fan of the sizing that they're able to accomplish, and I even appreciate the marketing rollout. On the heels of the 5KX, which had very mixed reviews. Some people like myself didn't really mind it. It kind of matches what was going on in the modding community. Others hated it because they were looking for that SKX replacement, and I think just hadn't been able to accept that that's the turtle. But when they released this, everyone seems to be a really big fan, so I picked one up. I completely get it. I'm going to run through the sizing really quick. It's a true 40mm case, so they didn't take that 5KX and just swap in a smooth bezel. This watch is actually its own thing. You have a fantastic thickness of 12mm, adds just enough heft, but at the same time is very much appropriate for a smaller wrist as well. You have a 20mm lug, going to be an absolute strap monster. You get a little bit of that dive watch aesthetic, but none of the guilt of putting it on a leather strap. You get the forearm movement with hand winding. You also get hacking and a 40-hour power reserve. It's the movement that comes in a lot of their kind of entry-level pieces, but obviously just above the 7S movements that don't offer that hacking or hand winding. So getting a little bit closer, obviously being the JDM model, you not only get made in Japan on the dial, but the kanji date wheel. And I'm a huge fan. It's forced me to kind of learn the days of the week through the Japanese characters. I think it adds a little bit of authenticity with the made in Japan. But all in all, it really doesn't matter. The watches made for the other markets are the exact same. I think value-wise, you probably get a little bit more on resale when you have that particular date wheel included, because you're not just selling a J model. You actually have the date wheel. You have an applied SEIKO logo, which I think looks fantastic. I have no problems with the new 5 design. I think it's very modern and looks great, especially on this watch. You have the applied indices, and to be honest with you, one of my favorite things about this watch is the handset. Love the lollipop seconds hand, and especially the minutes hand. Probably through my affinity for dive watches, I'm always a fan of a very large, pronounced minute hand. Rarely do I find myself not knowing what the hour is. I'm usually just looking to see where the minutes are, and I think this does a great job of giving you an at-a-glance time. You don't have to study it. It's very legible for you. There's 2 kind of sets of these watches. There's some that come on Bracelet that have this polished to brushed to polished bezel. When you get the NATO version, it's all brushed and then just this small section of polish. I'm assuming that's just because the NATO version is going to be a little bit more of a tool watch. I would always go for this one on the Bracelet and then swap out the strap if you want to. I think the polish adds a little bit more interest to the overall aesthetic, and it kind of reminds me somewhat of what Hamilton does with some of their field watches, where I feel like the polished bezel ones just kind of set themselves apart a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the personal preference that you guys have. So the drilled lugs are a welcome addition on this watch, especially because you're probably going to want to do away with the bracelet, as you would imagine on kind of an entry-level SEIKO. Folded end link, but they even went the next step and gave you folded links throughout the clasp. Now, they look solid, but you can see the line down each one of them. It does feel very cheap. I think that most people are going to pull this off and put it on a strap or do an upgrade. I have already upgraded the clasp. The SEIKO clasp that comes on here, it's a fold over, a little friction clasp, but it's all pressed metal and you only have 2 micro adjust. I picked these up from AliExpress, I believe. I'll leave a link in the description below. They're $7, $8. It gives you a 3rd micro adjust where the stock only has 2. dual button deployment, and then it also gives you a milled clasp where the stock version is all pressed metal. For $8, I think it really steps the bracelet up quite a bit, especially if you don't want to go and pay for the full kind of, strap code treatment. Although they do have a Jubilee and an Oyster version for this, and I'm sure it's phenomenal. As you can see, they do a display case back. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not always sold on this. Not that I don't find it appealing mechanically to see a watch movement. They just do zero decoration, and if they could do a screw down case back that wasn't display and give you an extra 50 meters of water resistance, I would take that over being able to see the movement every single time. Also, I think if you got into that 150 meter water resistance range, you'd really be filling that void of what would kind of be a poor man's Tudor Black Bay. And even with the Black Bay, I know some people don't care for the snowflake hands. This is a bit more subdued, and I think probably will scratch that same itch as kind of an everyday wear and throw on watch. So here it is on my 7.5 to 7 3/4 inch wrist. It kind of fluctuates. You'll see it's very well proportioned, sits nice and low, has a great profile. Definitely a watch that I wouldn't be hesitant to wear in an office setting with a collar shirt, or out and about with just a t-shirt and jeans. So I do have a second mod that I've done on the watch. Mark at Long Island Watch sells sapphire crystals for the new DressKX. He does a domed and a flat sapphire with blue AR coating on the underside. I went with the flat. I always prefer kind of the stock look. I just want kind of the rugged capabilities of a sapphire in my daily driver piece. I don't ever want to have to worry about catching a door frame and feeling like it's going to bug me every time I look down at my watch and see a scratch across the top. The anthracite dial here, the gray kind of sunburst, is my favorite of the lot. They do a black version, a black gilt with gold hands, a blue and a green as well. I think this is probably the most versatile and just very interesting color. I loved this when they did it on the Turtle, and I hope they continue it on and put it in more and more watches. So here's a quick size comparison. You can see it right next to the SKX. Clearly a smaller watch, much thinner, has its own profile to it, and I think is a welcome addition to their lineup with the SARB 033, 035 kind of taken out of it. I understand that these don't come stock with a sapphire crystal, but at the same time, you're still going to be able to mod it and kind of get in at that same price point, minus the 6R movement. And speaking of price, so what should you pay? Right now, when you look all throughout eBay, you'll see the new SRPEs running right under $200. I would never pay more than $200 for the watch. Not that I don't think in general terms that it's worth that. I just know you can pick them up cheaper. I was able to grab this version for $150. It was even listed out as the SBSA041. I think if you guys are patient, just take your time and kind of keep checking back, you'll be able to find a similar deal in that kind of $150 range. And then by the time you pay $40 for the crystal and $7-8 for the clasp, you're looking at paying $200 for a watch that really accomplishes everything that you would need it to do. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.